two apples or whatever, and then in the third wheel you have the apple, but just one slot above it, right? So it's like a near miss. And in the beginning of the slot machines, where it was like complete Wild West, no regulation whatsoever, the programs were actually coded this way to produce near misses because they give you more dopamine. Because it's like, oh my god, I almost had it, right? Then so you have to keep trying. And they had to regulate this. It is really fascinating. Repent and believe in Jesus. That guy has a parrot on his shoulder.
Yeah. He's driving
That
fast
guy
too.
has a parrot on his shoulder. Do you need to remind you guys that this guy has a parrot on his shoulder? Okay. Maybe I'm dreaming. I don't know. The only thing that I am always worried about art is that when you add something and it looks really, really cool, then you have to upgrade the rest of the game, because then you have this standard right here and the rest of the game is here, so you have to upgrade the rest of the game to bring it on the same standard. And then usually what happens is that one of these elements of the game is a little bit better, and then you have to upgrade the rest of the game again, and it's like this. A friend of mine called it the quality spiral. You kind of have to keep doing that. Oh my god. I'm not sure how I would rate this cat. Like, up to here it looks cute, but up here it looks like... Is it AI generated? Is it an alien? Is it a dog? Huh. Huh. Oh my god, it's so scary. It's so scary, I don't know. Huh. A professional kneader, yes. That's what his purpose is in life. Huh. I mean, since your whole life and future depends on a review, I would say it's definitely... They had a model for all of the things that you could cook. It's insane. This goes on forever. I mean, look at that. Oh my god. How is this? How did they do it? I have no fucking idea. I have no idea how they did it. It looks so good. Wow. Let's look at that again. Oh my god, that's a big fucking sandwich. I don't know if that is photogrammetry. I believe this is hand modeled. I don't know if this is... I had a colleague once ask me why a CSS is not working. I'm like, what are you saying? Display none. Why is display none not working? And I'm like, okay. I went over to her monitor and to her PC, and I looked at it and it said display none. I'm like, well, it cannot work like this if you write it like this. And she's like, oh my god. I'm like, yeah, this display none is not in the CSS standard. And it became a bit of a running gag. Whenever something wasn't working, we said, oh, it's another display none. Oh my god. Of course, there's one Easter egg that was an absolute necessity, and it is whenever you go to the shop there's a very, very low chance that he will say, "What are you buying?" There's a very, very low chance of that, which is, it is what it is. Because the shop music is already inspired by Resident Evil 4, so I wanted to have that as well. It does not have the exact same tone as the Resident Evil shopkeeper. I sent the video to him, but yeah, he just put his own little spin on it. A few arguments for AI, right? It can happen in some parts, but I've been streaming for 2.5 hours and I have not looked at ChatGPT, so and I'm doing fine. Could I be faster? Maybe, I don't know. It's just really strange. People always say it helps them with coding and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but you always have to send the code that you produce with AI to somebody else to review. So in fact, what happens is you just put the work on somebody else's desk. That's what usually happens. And another guy recently said that AI is just a junior coder, basically. You just have to watch over it and double check everything that it outputs, and that is not time saved. One last thing about AI. I don't like the way that it makes artists feel, where, artists are here drawing for hours on end, or even like people who are making games and stuff. And then somebody who is using AI is saying, "Why are you not using AI? You're stupid. You're wasting your time." That is one of the things that I really don't like. Like this feeling of trying to figure something out and other people thinking it's a waste of time. I really don't like that. I never understood how people could play Yu-Gi-Oh! It's like the numbers are so inflated. Well, let's do about 1,000 damage. I'm like, what? Why? Why would you just divide by 1,000 and you're fine? How do I fix this? I'm staring at the code. I'm like, how do I fix this? I don't know. Maybe I should also just, go into voice acting so I don't have to deal with this. Just go into voice acting. How hard can it be? Are you still having any, are you currently working on any games, Cornet? The more you can fix this bug, the more we can hang out. That's true. There's a new... Okay, attuned. What is attuned going to do? We also need to add it to... See, this is the problem. We always need to add translations. I should have never translated this game. Just don't translate your games, man. Just don't do it. Lakama Attune. Oh, it's an enemy. Robin Bad. Okay, Robin started out as a fighter for justice, but quickly lost interest in being a hero and turned into a common outlaw. Probably serves the old king in secret. That is hilarious. I like that. Probably shouldn't fill my deck with so much crap. But it is what it is. Robin Bad. I am your worst nightmare, Robin Bad. You will remember this day until you die. Unfortunately, you died today. Fortunately for you. Boom. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Feature complete. That's right. Today we're gonna have another podcast with Matt Choppy, and I also have a bit of a news news item. The news item is that I got feedback from Apple, and Apple said there's a problem with my game. So, can I show this on screen? Wait a minute. Wait. The problem with my game is, let's open it up. I'm going to my emails. What the emails? The emails. There's an issue with your Faith in Despair submission. Can I show this? Yes, I think I can. Let me go to a Unity stream here. Okay, so it says guideline 4 design issue description. There are issues with the app's user interface that contribute to a lower quality user experience than App Store users expect. Well, specifically the app bottom items in the menu are not accessible due to location and text size. So I think they're talking about wait a minute, there's YouTube chat. Hello YouTube chat. There's something weird happening with the chat today. I'm not really sure. I don't know why, but Social Stream Ninja is bugging out today. It's not letting me do anything, and it's not being displayed. I hope this is temporary and I don't have to find a new solution, but yeah. So if I go to the app on my mobile phone, it says Fade in Despair, and I think what they're talking about is the bottom row entries over here. So if you can see that, I think they are talking about these items down here. These down here, I don't know. So I'm not really sure. Wait a minute, Travis just sent me something. I feel like the continue joining this, in this case it's the same screen as in the both. Oh. No, I think the interface is fine like that. So we are currently talking about the intro and the outro. Hold on 1 second. Both are split in half, I hadn't that. Huh. Okay. Let's that is a quick decision to make. Oh my god. I feel like the intro could stay the same for now, and the outro. Okay, I will do that. Okay. Should I do the outro? Quick test for today. Okay. Sure. Okay. But yeah, let's go back to Unity stream. It says there are issues with the app's user interface that contribute to a lower quality user experience than App Store's users expect. Specifically, the app bottom items in the menu are not accessible due to location and text size. Next steps: revise the app to address all instances of the issues identified above. Oh my god, one more question about the greetings, Stars Blackman. How is it going? I should say Blechman. I'm currently I have gotten feedback from the iPhone test, and yeah, there's a small thing that I need to fix. And meanwhile, I'm talking to my chappy about the podcast today. Yeah, how was your weekend, Task Blechman? I think my weekend was okay. I got a lot of stuff done for my new game. I'm really excited. Oh my god. I have much to. So I'm talking to my chappy about the podcast today. We ran a bit, a ground in some things. I have much to contribute. Last year we ran a Discord for playtests. Oh, you ran a Discord for playtests. That's cool. So what is your? Maybe you can give me some small things now, so I can incorporate them into the podcast. What do you think? What is I don't know. What is the it is such a big topic, honestly. Like I have a huge list already here, so I don't even know where we should start with Task Blechman over here. Like it is very important. Like maybe you can I don't know. We have a lot of questions over here that are gonna be really interesting for sure. Let me get just texting my job again. Overthinking is what I like to do. Okay. Okay, so here's the topics for like we have a few questions today that we're gonna cover. Hello, my Chappy. Originally, it was a community for game dev my friends did, but after a while, it became mainly for playtesting, which was spearheaded by UX version. A person who was passionate about playtesting and how drilling to people how important that is and what to do with feedback. Yeah, that's really that is pretty much like playtesting is so important. Why do you think it's so important, Darth Blechman? But yeah, again about this iPhone thingy, we will see how this turns out. So basically, once again, Apple said that my splash screen is not good enough, and I don't know what that means yet. I don't know what I need to change there. This is the overthinking podcast. I'm going through my things again. But it's interesting that you have a whole Discord for playtesting. Do you think so? Is this a Discord where people can just submit any games and the entire Discord playtest them, or what is happening here? Or what is happening here? Why specifically? But that is interesting that you have a Discord. What do you think about in-person playtesting then, Darth Blechman? Because I personally am a huge fan of in-person playtests. I am a huge fan of those. In fact, that is the one thing why I like to go to physical events so much, because I can have I can have the game on display and people will just engage with it by their own will, and I can just sit back and see if the game works, if the game can explain it itself well enough. That is, I think, very, very powerful. If you get to a state where the people sitting in front of you with the game, they never turn around looking for you, then you're in a good place. But there's a point in time where people will turn around and look for you a lot. And you want to get to a state where this is not the case anymore. I think my experience first, one can get too deep into the game and then give it to someone to play. I got too many times into too many projects. Oh, that's interesting. They were worked on for too much time without seeing a single player. That's crazy. Second, there's a lot merit in physically watching the reactions on people in video call. There's a difference, yes, between the reaction and the feedback. That's true. That is very true. Yeah, I don't think I have this problem of sending my games too late, because hello Rennerpunk, how's it going? The chat is completely broken now, is it? Yeah, it's crazy to me. I'm using a backup chat now, but social stream is completely gone today. I don't know why. Social stream ninja has ninja'd away. Chat is dead. Yeah, I'm using a backup now, but it doesn't have YouTube chat in it. Which, you know, screw YouTube, I guess. Techneck is back. Welcome back. Nobody cares about you. In Vienna, but it's hot. Yeah, it is a very strange kind of thing, because on paper it's not very hot, right? It has like 27 degrees outside, or 30. Listen to what I'm saying. I sound like a madman. 30 is not hot. This is crazy. I've come to a point where 38 degrees is the norm. This is where we are. This is where I am at right now. Isn't that weird? Oh my god. To me, 30 degrees is now almost cold. It's like, oh yeah, this is a nice change of pace. This is how far we've come. But yeah, as I just said, I think I don't have this problem of sending my games too late, because I guess the biggest advantage that I have is that my wife likes to play my games and she likes to test them, and I can trust her to give me honest feedback. Like, she will tell me when something is not working. A comp is 30 degrees. What are you talking about? What should I say? I'm used to 40 degrees now. It's like, oh, 30 degrees? Wow, this is... Yeah, I think winter is coming. On the third side, on the side of being staff on playtesting, there was a lot of challenges for the person running it in training the teams after the I guess playtest. So I guess your challenge would be that you gotta go, no time today. Okay, see you, Technic. So I guess your challenge is that you get so much feedback, and then you have to, I guess, find a way to distill everything down. Teams were happy with the feedback, but were not listening. Oh, they believed they were doing good, but were not addressing the issues that playtesting rise. Oh, that is such a good point, dude. I've seen what happens if you ignore it. Dude, I've seen games where people, the players, have repeated the same feedback over and over. And the game devs were like, But no, this is the way it has to be. I've seen one game dev, he was like, I will die on this hill. And it was really strange because, I mean, I guess the game didn't really flop, but it also didn't, you know, become a viral hit or something like that. Which is okay. Not every game needs to go viral. There was another one recently where another game dev got some feedback that something was not working in terms of the interface. And he was like, but I really have to have this in the game. And then I said, well, if players keep telling you that this isn't working, maybe it needs to be fixed. But then he said, no, I think this is a UI issue. And then I was like, oh. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh yeah, he's right. So it can go both ways. It can go both ways. It can be like, yeah, no, where the game dev is sure that a certain idea is going to work, but maybe there's something else that is distracting from it. But teams who are happy with the feedback but were not listening is crazy to me. Were not listening. I guess when you get to a certain size, for example, Slay the Spire 2, they have so much feedback. I don't even want to know what they're going through behind the scenes. It is probably super intense. It's, I don't know. Yes, they got a lot of money, probably. But man, like at some point, there's so much feedback that it gets so hard to know who to trust or what kind of feedback do you actually want to trust. So I think it gets to a point, which is actually kind of funny. It gets to a point where you get so much feedback that you maybe cannot rely on the feedback anymore. So you do have to rely on your own intuition again. Because, I don't know, this is really strange. There's a line between believing the player's feedback. The game dev knows better what he wants to do, unless he doesn't really, and then it's a different problem. That's true, yeah. Oh shit. I just locked my screen. That is beside the point of feedback, the point to the wrong problem, which always happens. Wait, that is beside the point of feedback, the point to the wrong problem. Oh yeah, okay, that happens, yeah. You are lost? Hello, Barion. Hello, Barion. Oh my god. Why is I don't know why social stream manager is broken today. It seems very strange, everything. Maybe it updated, I'm not really sure. I'm not certain. I think the reality is falling apart. True. I was just thinking about when you follow feedback too much, does it change the game too much? And I sometimes wonder what my game Phase in Despair would look like if I had never gotten any external feedback. Because that version died somewhere along the way, which is kind of weird, right? No, I do like where the game is currently, and I think it's a better game than what it probably was in the past. But I don't know, there was something other, some other thing that I had to kill in the process, which is kind of weird, right? So there comes a point where if you follow feedback too much, you are losing what the game is all about. You're losing your original vision. And I think what Das Blechman said is, if the developer doesn't have a vision, then it becomes a huge problem. At least the feedback that I incorporate into Faith in Despair, I would say, is still part of the vision that I had. The vision for Faith in Despair was always have a very chill deck builder that is kind of like Solitaire, kind of like Inscription, and very very easy to get into a flow state, and that is very ambient soundtrack. Everything is very toned down. You can relax until your cards get exiled. Is there a very early version of Fate and Despair available to play? Yes. I only had experience playing against my Team Fortress 2 maps. Nice. Nobody wants to play as my games, possibly because I haven't tried making a single one. Okay. Do I have old builds lying around somewhere? Let me find one of the oldest builds. Let me find one of the oldest builds. And then I can say includes a file. And we need to go back to 2013. From? No. Dates. Can I input a date here? Before... Oh my god. Can I... What? Discord date selection sucks. It needs to be before 2024. There you go. Apply filters. I mean, this kind of looks like at this point I was already having the new version, I would say. Oh my god, this was the event, the one event where I shared Faith in Despair with a really huge publisher, and this was the fake publishing pitch event. That changed a whole lot. That was really, really cool. That was the first art try. Oh my god. Just a random cat meme. He knows he's in trouble. That's cute. Next. Oh yeah, this looks like a very early version. I mean, not that early. I think at this point I was working on it for half a year already. That doesn't even have art yet. Let's download that one. Yeah, let's download that one. Pew. Continue to download. To the download. Faith in Despair. Old build. You made TF2 maps? The cat memes that gets full screen, but the crucial art pass doesn't. No. Nothing is crucial in this world. Except cat pictures. There it is. Where did I put this? Oh. Let me extract that. And it should start any moment. Wow, it still had the gray splash screen. Oh my god. That is the old splash screen. Nice. Yeah, I like that a lot. I really like that one. This was the, oh my god, this was the old circle selection. That was all there is to it. Crazy. And then you selected a card, yes. And there we are. Wait, oh my god, this is the old map system. This is the old fucking map system. Oh my god. I had a battle log already? There's no way. Wow, really? Oh my god. Oh my god. No, I turned off the sounds. Oh, the headset on the left. It already had a... Yeah, and this was the old inventory. See? Wow, 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 wow. Now, I think this has a certain charm to it. This is the version that would probably still exist without feedback. Let's be honest, because I don't know, I felt like there is not a lot of art needed, and I don't know. I guess I was wrong. I guess it looks much better now, but it's really hard to say. The inventory is kind of cool. Oh my god. And it comes in from the right. Oh my god. The sounds are exactly the same, by the way. I mean, it was already pretty advanced. No special enemies in the... Hello, Animage. I'm just checking out an old version of my game. And then we're going to talk about... So the reason I opened up this old version is because we are talking about playtesting, right? Playtesting and player feedback. And this old version of my game, it existed before a lot of feedback happened. And I think this is a crucial part of how far the game got in the end. Because if I didn't get it into this one event that was about to happen soon after I made this exact build, a lot of the things would never have happened. But having the battle log already is kind of... That's crazy. I did not expect that. Beta Fairness was dark and gritty. Yeah, that was the point of the game, you know? I wanted not a lot of... I don't know, I just felt like this was enough. Which I guess it's not. It's not enough. Nobody really knows. Also, there's probably a bug here. This, yeah, there it is. you can see the old tournament achievement pop up if you move your mouse over this place. That was in the game for a long time. Yeah. That's it, there it is. Being able to achievement in the menu is great. Yes. That was never intended to be in the menu. That was never intended to be in the menu. It was in tournament, but we had to remove it for Switch. I don't know why. I don't know why we couldn't have just renamed it. But my porting partner was like, we have to remove it. We cannot have achievements. And I was like, but this is in-game. Anyways, so this is the reason why I changed it for Fate and Despair, and I renamed it to Collection from the beginning. Collection and Chronicles. So that maybe it will survive on the Switch. Hopefully. Hopefully. But yeah, that is why that is how the game changed. What do you think about playtesting Animage? I think you have already released at least one game. I guess you have made more, but you already have Ani Idle. When did you start playtesting Ani Idle? Was it very early in the process or very late in the process? And how are you changing things for the second part? If anybody's curious, this is Ani Idle. Made by none other. My god. And then Animage. No, this is part of the OBS stream. There we go. Give me 1 second, I need to refill my water. That's all I made so far. Ani Idle was playtested by a few people only, and I would say it was quite late. Ani Idle 2 is playtested early now, and it already happened a lot. Nice. That's very good to hear. Wow. Yeah, I mean, if you're starting sooner, I think it only has upsides. I honestly think it only has upsides because you have a vision for your game in your head, but as soon as I think the problem is that a game cannot exist without the player, right? There's just no way that this is true. So getting the player involved as soon as possible actually makes sense from that point of view, I would say. I'm gonna write some stuff down when. How far do you think Ani Idle 2 is right now into development? So get it is about the things you don't think or care personally about, and also about the things you developed some kind of blind eye for. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes you do not see what is needed anymore. That is a very good point, yeah. That is a very good point. I'm stealing all your points. Ani Idle 2 might be somewhere between 20 to 40%. I have no clue. Yeah. Interesting. You have no clue. You have but you do have a list of things that you want to have in a game, right? Right? But yeah, the tunnel vision is a huge thing. Something that I definitely want to mention. And there's always something that happened for Fate and Despair. People always told me, dude, yeah, this has so much potential. I'm like, Can you please tell me what the potential is? Because I forgot. I don't know what it is anymore. Please tell me. It is really strange because the version that I just showed you, I'm not sure if I was happy with it, but I don't know. It's very strange. I think a part of me was scared of investing more time into this game. Scared of the truth, which is this game is gonna take another 2 years. I think this is honestly what happened to me. You have a to-do list, which was a mix of what I wanted to do in Arnie Idle. Oh, but did not due to wanting to release it on Steam, learn how about that instead, and the rest of the to-do list are new ideas from myself or feedback. Cool. No, I think that is a very good decision. The game has a huge potential for keyboard and mouse inputs. Thank you so much, Barry, and I will note that down. You are dismissed. But I also do not want to stop developing new features yet. I want Arnie Idle 2 to be way more complex than the first one. Just be careful, Animage. Just be careful not to make it too complicated in the beginning. Like the complexity needs to evolve over time and not, overwhelm the player at the beginning. You probably know this. I just wanted to give you a fair warning, because that is also something that a lot of people do. They make a second part and then everything is more complex for the sake of being more complex, without having any additional value. This happened to, for example, Final Fantasy XIV. At some point, they added new jobs, or playing characters, and they were just complicated for the sake of being complicated. It was really weird, because if you have, for example, you have a warrior that needs to click 3 buttons to do 50 damage. But then you have the ultimate weather mage not warrior, mage, what is it? Prophecy master. And he needs to do 150 buttons to do 48 damage in the same time. That is not fun. That is not fun at all. So that is what I want to tell you. It is a really hard line to walk on, a really thin line to walk on. I think this in Slay the Spire 2, I think the complexity is kind of the same in all characters. That's not entirely true. I think the defect is a bit more complicated than, for example, the Ironclad. But you're still just playing cards, so yeah. Notepad plus Progress well. No, I still have Notepad plus plus. There it is. I just want to flashbang everybody. I also have my player base in mind, who should also be able to be people who like Path of Excellence, so they are normally not scared if it comes to complex features. Okay, yeah. No, I think this is really hard to say, because complexity is not equal to depth, and this is very complicated. Not complicated, but this is hard to differentiate, I think. Right? And even I am still learning that. I'm still on the path of learning the difference. Because I want to add a new starter deck to Faith and Despair. And I'm constantly like, I'm constantly questioning myself. Am I adding this to make it more complex? Or am I adding this so it has more depth? Which means, I think depth means more player agency. But complexity is, I don't know, just making things obtuse for no reason. Add these things to Fate in Despair 2. Fate in Despair 2 is called Complexity in Depth. What's a good example of a game with great depth with no complexity? Chess. Yeah, I would say chess. Probably, yes. So basically it is about being very easy to learn, but very hard to master. You want to have the simplest possible way to play a game, but the choices you can make are infinite. That is basically what this means. The strategy involved is so complex, or there's a lot of depth to the strategy that you can create, which is really interesting. And again, the perfect example was what I just showed you. This is the warrior. I mean, this is the bad example, right? The warrior takes 3 buttons to do 50 damage, and the ultra mage 3000 takes 150 buttons to do 45 damage. That is why I think the classes in Final Fantasy XIV stopped being fun, because you were like, why do I don't know. Why am I playing a rhythm game over here while this mage just presses one button every 5 minutes and does 200,000 damage? It just doesn't make any sense. And I honestly think that Slay the Spire 2 is also a good example. Slay the Spire 2. Why Slay the Spire 2 is so good? Because it has a lot of simple cards. Like by itself, the description of the cards is relatively short. There are some bigger ones as well, but very short descriptions. So, and I think they also said this in the behind the scenes ones, but this is very important. So the card itself is very easy to understand. This is very, very important. And then, no, wait a minute. I think it was the Balatro creator. It might have been the Balatro creator. You have a lot of individual pieces that by themselves are very easy to understand, but by connecting them, you have a lot of depth. And that is basically, that is good game design. Because the combination of them is what allows you to create this additional layer of complexity. That is the good complexity. But imagine having complex cards that are hard to understand. For example, I will give you an example. I don't know. Give me any of the commanders here. I don't know. Okay, this is the Final Fantasy. Trance. At the beginning of combat, enter mill 2 cards. Terra gains flying until end of turn. This sentence alone requires me to look up what the rules are. Whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2. When you do, return target creature with power of 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. That's, yeah, but it is not, you know, compared it to, I don't know, a Slay the Spire 2 card. It just says, deal 8 damage, 2 vulnerable. There are some more complex cards. Yes. But, you know, it is limited. You have a deal 9 damage, put a card from your discard pile on top of your draw pile. That's it. But if this comes with another card where, for example, a zero cost card and it's available every time, or you can draw it again, this is huge. But by itself, the cards are relatively simple. it just creates complexity, or I would say player agency, by combining them, which is very, very cool. Yeah, this is I don't know. That is, Magic has gotten a little bit out of hand. Let's be honest. I should really get to creating a Fate in Despair wiki. Wasn't there already some? No, no. There was a guide on Steam, right? Right. The Lacama Compendium. That's right. And it's also so interesting because when you get the feedback that something is difficult, I think in most cases is that it's there's too much text, or something is hard to understand. But if you make it your mission that all of the individual pieces of your game are easy to understand, I think then you are on a good path. I also think that. Let's take a look at the settings over here, just to make sure everything is in order. We have the audio settings, everything is off, yes. And video settings should be fine. We are ready to go. One of the biggest things in getting feedback from a playtest is your ego. And I think that is when developers start ignoring feedback, I think it's because it has gotten to their ego too much, and they cannot look past it. Will you do few question segment today? No, we have not thought about it. We will not do it today. Maybe next time. That's not entirely true. Actually, I mean, we had smaller segments in the past where we looked at chat. And at the end of the episode, we used to look at chat sometimes and see if we were missing something. We will see. We will see. Playtest feedback can hurt. I've taken a note of it in a punk. It is a kind of a mail, comments mail section. Right. Oh. Oh. Playtest feedback can hurt, that's true. It is not always easy to add some feature or visuals go because the person just liked them, for example. Yes. I'm trying to think of what was the I gotta be honest here. Renderpunk has killed a lot of my stuff. You know, it is what it is. Hi, Daviska. Hello. What did I do? No, I'm just saying. I need to be careful how I phrase things. What I meant was, I added something to Fate and Despair, and then I got feedback. And as Anime just said, it is not always easy to let some features or visuals go, because the person just liked them, for example. That is what I meant. So sometimes I get feedback, and the gut reaction is, but I made it. I invested some time into this. And you have to look over that and be like, but the suggestion is better. Time to throw it away. I'm so sorry. It is objectively better. And that is sometimes this is hard to swallow. The killer. Not always. Not always. But yeah. Sometimes I have... dude, I had some feedback for Fate and Despair. That is still... There are some things in the game where I probably need to change them in terms of balance or in terms of gameplay. That would probably alleviate some of the frustrations that some people have. But I don't know, it's just so hard to say, because I feel like the game needs to have some, you know, some kind of moments where you have a deep reaction to it, like a true emotional response. Because if a game does not give you any response, I think it is ultimately boring. I think it is. It needs to give you the good times and also a little bit of the bad times. That is what I believe. Originally, you got a question. Hello, half. State your question, and I will see if I can answer it. Originally, in the old version of Fate and Despair, there was no exile. There was a destroy card. So this spell would just completely obliterate a card of yours. Gone forever. And people would be outraged. They would be like, oh my god, I just spent an entire hour building this card and you just take it away from me. It was actually called not steal card. It was called the enemy could take a card away from you, and then you would have to play against it. This is what happened. And I was like, yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's fun. I think it's cool, man. But I might just be a bit of a masochist. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I reduced the impact of this and I made Exile instead, where you can get the card back if you find another rest site. And some people still don't like that. And I feel like I still need to leave that in, because I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I feel like it needs a little bit of spice, you know? How dare you? Yeah. I think this was so awesome. Death would just take your cards and you have to play against them. And you would never get them back. I think that was really cool. But yeah, I killed that feature. What has me not being too attached to stuff is throw away stuff regular and see if I miss it when it's gone. That is a really cool way of seeing things. I feel like I'm in a similar boat. Whenever I try out new stuff, I don't hesitate. When I think it's not good, I will just delete it. I think I've gotten to a point where this is possible. As a QA tester, how do you go about giving feedback and ideas to the developers of the game? I feel like I noticed there's some critical issues with the game's replayability, but the dev team is small, so it would take too long to be too ambitious to execute on ideas. I have to fix that issue. How do you balance between feasibility in the prevent versus ambition to address core issues with the game that can't be simply band-aid fixed? Very good question. Roll the ads. You know what I always did when I lost the card on an enemy in Chandler? I loaded my last save file. Yeah, I know, it is hard to swallow, especially in Faith and Despair. And I will answer the question in a bit when Half is back. I assume he's seeing ads right now. He has no ads? Okay. 1 second. But Animate, yes. That is especially true in Faith and Despair because you're building your own cards, which has the IKEA effect. The IKEA effect says that whenever you build something yourself, you have a bigger attachment to it. So this is especially true for Faith and Despair. When you build a card yourself and death takes it away, you're like, but my precious. Okay. Half, this is a very good question. When you notice something in a game that is fundamentally making the game worse, I would still point it out. I would still point it out to the devs and say, you know what, I think this could be really cool for your game and make it a much better experience. Now, the problem with very big changes is it can very easily get into a question of taste, or like if it would change the game too much, is it still the same game? Is what I'm saying. Is it? And that is why I understand if it pivots too much from the original vision, then I can see why game devs would ignore it. But I would still say it to them if I were you. Because I've gotten some feedback for Faith and Despair for my card game where I thought about it and I was like, this is too much of a change. But here's what happens sometimes. The idea gets stuck in my head and one day I sit on my desk, I'm like, wait a minute, there's a really simple way I can have this idea implemented in my game and make it better. So that is why I'm saying you still need to give them the idea, because it might just trigger something else. That while not making the game entirely or let it go entirely in that direction, taking at least one step in that direction is better than nothing. That is why I say everything that you think. At the end of the day, you cannot do wrong by saying stuff. I don't think you can give too much feedback. I hope that answers the question. The response I get isn't really, it goes against the game's spirit, but more so sounds cool, but we don't have time to do that. And you opt to make something easier, which is a little cool, and add some content, but it doesn't address the fundamental issue of the game's replayability. Okay. It's a tough one. It really is a tough one. Let me think about that. I guess I've done similar things where people suggested something to me and I took a shortcut to get there. And then the question is, was it still worth doing? I think yes, but it's hard to say. It's very hard to say. But I would say I guess you're talking about a game dev team that is depending on a game's success to keep the studio alive. I'm testing for a live service MMORPG. Oh my god. And the largest complaint from players is the game's lack of stuff to do in endgame. Oh. There's a bottleneck where players demand more content than developers can actually make in a timely manner. And any systems I could think of to pad time for developers to make more content would be too ambitious. Oh yeah, that is a big problem. Every MMORPG has this problem where they cannot focus too much on the end game, because if you look at the percentage, I think maybe let's I don't know, maybe 5% reach end game. So who do you serve? Do you serve 5%, 95% of casual players, or 5% of the hardcore? This is, I think, what a lot of people who make MMORPGs have to think about. Because this group over here probably is still responsible for a lot of your basic income, for a lot of your base income. So if you make these people happy, I think they are even giving you a lot of word of mouth still. It's very hard to say. It is very hard to say. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is it, right? I think this is the problem. I've played a lot of MMORPG, not a lot, but I've played it for a long time. Final Fantasy 11, Final Fantasy 14, Star Wars Galaxies. I played some of the old ones. I always like testing out the new ones. But again, I would say you still have to suggest these things, because you never know when they make a sequel, or you never know when they do have time for something. And I would still, like, if I was working on a game like that, I would still like to have this feedback. Even if, for example, if you're not the only one giving this kind of feedback or giving them these ideas, if they have 4 or more people giving them the same idea, they will be like, oh, wait a minute. There are a lot more people who are now suggesting the exact same thing. Maybe we should allocate some time to this. But the issue is right now both sides of the base are complaining. The question is kind of boring for them, even if we add ways to do it via PvP. Questing PvP, instance PvP, etc. Even if we have bosses, dungeons, and gaming equipment, it's still not enough, yeah. The only thing, the thing that Final Fantasy 14 did, I don't know if you probably know this game, is they made, and also what Bethesda did. Bethesda did a very cool thing where they made, for example, 4 dungeon kits, and then they made 4 dungeons out of them, and then they made a dungeon with kit number 1 plus kit number 2, and another one with, kit number 3 and kit number 4, and then you can have a dungeon with, and then you have one with, I don't know, the kit with number 1 and 4 and so on and so on. So you kind of remix your existing content, and Final Fantasy 14 was really good with that. They made a dungeon, and then they made kind of a hard version of the dungeon, and then they kind of remixed the dungeon, remixed like 2 dungeons into another one. They were Final Fantasy 14. They figured out a way to keep reusing the assets, to keep remixing their own content. I think this was really, really cool. I think this was really, really cool. Now, I'm pretty sure there are some easier ways where they can do something like that. I think what Final Fantasy 14 did, there's some kind of tower that you had to climb. And you just, rise further and further, and you meet the same mobs that you met in the entire rest of the MMORPG. But it was really tough, and there were some unique things to experience still. There was some yeah, again, you have to bait them with new content, right? It is really hard. It is really, really hard, especially if you are running on fumes at this point, right? Give me 1 second. All right. It looks like Chirpy is ready to join. Let me switch over to Video Ninja. Sort of come to the conclusion that it's perhaps a system issue rather than a content issue, where if you had a way to incentivize a client, look past the bottom of the client. Echo, thank you. Oh, it's only one side again? Fuck me, dude. 1 second. Players would say when releasing new equipment with better stats than existing, that's not enough of a reason to grind for that. Yeah. It's MMOs are screwed. I think it was noise suppression, right? Yeah. For some reason, noise suppression off turns my audio into mono. It is so hilarious. I don't know what it is. Let me get into position. Noise depression. Yes. Hello, T-Bag, by the way. Noise depression. Yeah. Let me move that over here. Let me make that smaller. Let me move that over here. No, let's move that over here. We're preparing to cross streams, everybody. I know everybody says do not cross streams, but we are about to do it. Chirpy and I. So we're firing up our lasers. If you can't find anyone to podcast with, you could split screen with yourself, just time delete. No. But yeah, half. Thank you very much for the questions. I think especially the MMO sector is very interesting. I have a huge respect for them. I appreciate the tips. I guess I will try and look into Final Fantasy Dungeon System and their repackaging for ideas. All right, yeah, that sounds good. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out. Where do I move this? I'm moving windows around like a mage. Beep boop boo. Ba 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 ba. La 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 da 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 da. Huh? Oh. Hello. Wait a minute. Can you hear me? Can I hear you? I cannot hear you yet. I still cannot hear you. Is it on my end or is it on your end? Test. Audio settings. Let's get off. Compressor off. Off. I still cannot hear you through the. Is your mic connected to the thing, to the Video Ninja? I have Chirpy on monitoring, so I should hear you, but I also don't see any volume on video on Chirpy microphone. Trying to see if it is on my end. Message, scene options. I can click reconnect mic. Attempts to fix microphone issues by reconnect. Okay, I will try reconnecting it.
Testing.
Oh, it works. Cool.
What? Nice.
Reconnect mic works. Okay, that's good
It's
to know.
what we call the Norwegian reset. Just plug it out and plug it back in again.
You're calling something the Norwegian reset?
Yeah, no, that's the official term in Sweden for plugging something out and plugging it back in again.
That's funny. Hello. Wait a minute. Wait. Okay, do I... Additional controls. Video settings. The video settings. Video settings. Record local. I hope I don't crash. Okay, 1 second. I need to select a file here.
What do you guys mean you never heard of Norwegian reset? You have to, at this point, you gotta give up your Swedish citizenship. You guys never heard that? That's mad.
I mean, I have never heard it, but that's no surprise, I guess, as an Austrian. Okay, recording the other side.
Yeah, you just gotta start calling it like a, I don't know, a German reset instead.
It sounds really good. It sounds like it could work. No, I mean, yeah, maybe the German train system is a good indicator of that. Yeah, the German train system is screwed. Am I lagging, or is it? Am I lagging for anybody else in the video, or is it just my system?
I think it seems fine on my end.
Yes, test. Okay, that's good. You are lagging? Okay. Am I really lagging? And a punk. Looks like low shutter speed or something. Oh shit.
And maybe not like highest FPS, but you're not like stuttering. Yeah,
Okay,
frame
what
rate
about
potentially
what
low.
about now? Is it better now? Yeah, it's better now. Oh no. Okay, this is because of the recording. Okay, screw the recording. All right.
Should we share chat as well?
Yes. Screen together. So how do you
Let the chatters fight.
Send invite. There you go. You should have gotten an invite. Is that true?
Yeah, no.
Barbie police. Vanderpunk is not having it.
There we go. Mute it in there though, so it doesn't double up.
All right. All right. Well, let's take another sip of water and
Yeah, I think we
if
are fully set up.
Yeah, if the audio is right and the video gods have praised us, blessed us, gods are not praising anybody, then we can start. Do we want to switch it up today, or do we want to keep being host one today? Or how do you feel?
We can switch it up. You can take the reins if you want.
Okay, so I will introduce myself, and then it's your turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're still learning, guys. We're gonna get through this.
We're trying to anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Feature Complete, where we talk about game dev and everything related to it. I'm one of your hosts, Smarter Sheep, aka Philip.
And I am Mad Sherpy. And today we are going to talk about playtesting and feedback, I suppose.
That's right. Yes.
And I don't know if we should, similarly to last time, maybe start off just trying to explain it. So in your mind, how do you think about what is playtesting to you?
I think playtesting for me is validating that the core idea works, especially we are getting to this later on where we talk about when to start playtesting, right? But I think especially in the beginning, when you have a prototype, playtesting is there to validate an idea and to see if you are on the right path already, or if the idea doesn't work only in your head. What do you think about that?
No, I think that makes sense. Just out of curiosity, when you say idea, what do you mean?
Okay, so one day you wake up with a game idea in your head, and I think it is a very specific feeling that you want to get across with your game. And the interesting thing about games is a game cannot exist just by itself. You always need the player as well. So I think by that logic alone, it has to incorporate the player as well. If it doesn't work with the player, then I think you need to change things. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think that makes sense. At the end of the day, it's interactive. It's an interactive media, right? I think what maybe I was trying to hint at, because I think playtesting can be even more focused as well, where maybe it doesn't have to be testing the core idea of the game, where you could do focused testing on a very specific part of the game as well. But with that, at the end of the day, I still think that your definition works the same, because I think you have an idea for some part in the game, and then you playtest that part to validate whether it works or not.
Interesting. But yeah, so that is still within the realms of playtesting, is basically to validate if something is working, right?
Mm. Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the core things. There are like certain other elements to it as well. Like, I don't know, depending on how you define it, like, is braid testing, is that part of playtesting?
I think I know what you're alluding to. I think you're saying, like, where's the line between playtesting and QA? Is that what you're
Yeah, I mean,
getting
that
to?
is, I think QA, I don't know if is braid testing, does that go under the umbrella of QA? I'm not entirely sure.
I guess kind of. I don't know. So, it is really hard to say where the line is, because if I, for example, for my game Faith in Despair, I do have playtests of a new feature sometimes, and that is usually happening in a beta branch that is only for playtesting. But it is also where people report a lot of game-breaking bugs, and I expect them to find those during the playtest. Now, I think Q&A is, seeing it as a profession, is a step even a step further, where they continually test a certain section of a game until they are so bored out of the mind. But they have to do it every day or every time there's a new build. And I think this is where the line between just regular playtesting and QA comes from. I think maybe playtesting involves, I would say, regular players, and QA is more, when you had to playtest. I don't know.
No, maybe. I think in like the game dev industry, I think you have like professional testers as well, like in playtesting too. But I think maybe that's one of those things where I think this could be harder for us to describe sometimes, specifically because we are like smaller indie developers. Because I do think that for us, the lines are a lot more blurred. Because, for example, I don't have like a professional QA testing team, right? So, like, at the end of the day, the people who would report any type of like QA feedback are the same people who are, quote, normally testing the game as well. And likewise with like braid testing, like it's, I just have my my playtesters. That's the only group I have. So it all kind of gets a bit more blurry.
Yeah, I would say so too. Like, I have my dedicated playtesters, thank you all, who report the wildest things that I never thought possible in my game. But yeah, I have seen QA testers, and I think Relips over here says it really well. I think they are just more focused on technical side. Maybe I think that's the biggest difference. Like, they will test out the really heavy stuff. And again, I've seen a QA tester work. That is like another dimension.
I think maybe in our case, one could say that the people are still kind of playtesters. It's just that they might happen to stumble upon like QA issues as well. Whereas like if we are talking about a more professional QA tester, that will be, I suppose, a lot more like deliberate testing in a way. Whereas a lot of play testing might still be a little bit under the, category of like someone is just playing your game to see if they enjoy it, if it works, if the idea works, and so on.
Right. So what do you think is not playtesting? Do you think early access and demo is not playtesting?
Yeah, I definitely would not consider a demo or early access as a playtest. And that's not to say that you, of course, can't get a lot of good feedback from early access or from a demo and still have that incorporated into the game and, maybe even change the trajectory of the game and so on. But I think the I think going maybe with the mindset that they would be something like a playtest is a little bit of a slippery slope, because at the end of the day, I would still consider a demo as well as early access to be more like it's a product that you release. In other words, my opinion is that it should already be playtested. Even in the case of early access, where it's technically not a finished game, that doesn't mean that you should release into early access with a completely, a bug-ridden build that barely works, because someone has still paid their money for this, right? So there's still like some standard, I would say, should still be there for it.
I agree, and I think the expectations get higher every year.
So maybe
I think that is also part of the reason why you have to playtest as early as possible to get the really, really bad bugs out as soon as possible. Which is exactly why playtesting is so important, right?
Yeah. No, I honestly think it's one of the most important parts, and potentially underestimated by people at first. But as you said, like a game can't really exist without a player. So validating it and making sure that it works when someone actually plays the game is, it's a critical to the development of the game, I would say.
Yeah, I just someone in chat. Sorry, I forgot the name, but someone in chat mentioned that there was one game dev who did not test the game for like, I don't know, I think it was a year or something like that, and then released it or gave it to a player for the first time after working like in the dark. You imagine this guy is sitting in the dark for like an entire year, and then he gives you this game, and I can only imagine what a game like that looks like, because I feel like it would miss a lot of the basic things, like, I don't know, maybe certain options, or maybe a lot of like the quality of life features that you as the developer yourself do not need, because you know the game, you know what you're doing. But yeah, it's like at this point, there probably are already things in the game that are very hard to change, like after such a long time. So this is also a thing why I think playtesting as early as possible is very important. But of course, very important in general.
Yeah, just it sets the foundation in it. Like if you're not playtesting at first, you might have a system that just doesn't work, and you might be stacking stuff on top of this later on, which means that now it's going to be way harder to fix the potential core issue. Whereas if you would have playtested early, maybe you would have found that out and could have like structured things around it earlier.
Is there a thing in Shroud of Gloom, which is your game coming out soon, TM?
Yeah.
Is there a thing that you found during playtesting? I mean, it's probably what is it? Like one thing that you found during playtesting that you thought would not be an issue?
I think there's quite a lot. Something I mentioned previously on another episode was, of course, the battery system for my flashlight. That was a complete system that I ended up removing as a direct consequence of seeing how people interacted with the game. But on top of that, there's also a number of other things. As you mentioned, I think a lot of my accessibility settings and so on has come from me seeing how someone is interacted with the game. I'm like, they might actually be good to have a setting for this thing. And also, as someone, Shroud of Gloom is a puzzle game, right? So I think making a puzzle game is one of the biggest disadvantages, I think, is that it requires a lot of playtesting. And the playtesters basically become I don't know what the term I'm looking for. Like they're consumable. Like you have a one-time use. One person can only genuinely test a certain puzzle once. which is
Yeah.
now you've used them up, and the next time you give them this puzzle, they will already have like preconceived notions about what the solution is going to be, how the puzzle works, and so on. So to get like a proper view of this new puzzle you have made, you basically need to get yet another new tester to try it and to, you know, base your the result of, right? So with puzzles, I've definitely used a lot of playtesting in that way, where, you know, I've added a bunch of more little hints and nudges in different places where I've noticed that like certain playtesters are having more issues with like figuring out the solution to something. And a lot of those, I would say, are a direct consequence of playtesting.
Yeah, pretty much the same here. So in Faith and Despair, the biggest one was always art, and I know I mentioned this in a previous episode, but there are a lot of tiny things where I thought I did my homework in terms of roguelike deck builders, because you know there's a lot of information already out there. You can look through the Steam reviews and take all of your data there, what people expect from it. But there was still a bunch of things missing, where I'm glad I did the playtest. But yeah. So I guess, yeah, go ahead.
Other than art, which you mentioned, what is something else that you would say you incorporated directly from playtesting? Do you have another example of it?
I would say there was a feature in the game where you are playing Cards Against Death, right? And there was a feature in the game where Death could take a card from you permanently, and it would play against you. And it was like, I personally really liked it because it was it added a little spice to the gameplay, and I was not sad to get a card removed from a deck. But some people in the playtest said, you know what, this feels really, really bad, like in a way that is not fun anymore. Because it can also happen in very unfortunate situations. So this was a mechanic that I changed during playtests, where it is still kind of awful, some people might say, because right now it was turned into exile, where the card is still taken away from you, but you can get it back if you go to the next like rest site. So it is the blow is a little bit softened, but it can still be kind of devastating.
So in other words, it's a temporary removal, whereas before you legitimately like took the card and there was no way of getting it back.
There was no way to get it back, yes. There might, if you're unlucky, there might still be no way to get it back, but which I might change in the next update. But other than that, I mean, there were so many small things. I would also like to say that some people, they have a special talent for playtesting. Like they will find the craziest things that you would never think about. And I don't know if this is true for you as well. In a I would say linear puzzle game, or a more linear puzzle game. Whereas in a systems-based game, you as a game dev yourself, you're not aware of all the combinations that are possible. And some people, they have an absolute talent for this. So I hope that you game devs out there will find one of these playtesters that really, really, they should probably work in Q&A, but they don't yet. But I cannot think of a particular example at the moment, no.
No, but I would agree. I think there's people who maybe have a more natural, gift for testing. Also in like the actual feedback that they do give. Because there's a lot of people who might stumble upon things, maybe even notice or react to something, but they still wouldn't think about actually giving it as feedback from the playtest. Now, of course, this is worse if you're doing like some form of like external playtesting. Whereas like if you're doing in-person testing, or like if you have a video, then you as the developer can still notice these things. But that's where I definitely can notice some differences. I think for me, though, as you said, it's like, I think our games are very different to playtest. Like, and I think in certain regards, some testing kind of have different goals, I suppose. Just as you said, with you as one person, you're not gonna be able to get every possible build and combination in the entire game, right? So that's one of those places where you get a lot of benefit of having other people test things and do it in like maybe unconventional ways and so on. And I think it's, it's similar but different for me, because as someone working on like a puzzle game, and as you said, which is fairly linear, the issue for me as the developer is that I am quite literally unable to experience a puzzle like truthfully in my game. Just like I'm making the puzzle, right? What I am basically doing is that I'm figuring out some puzzle, right? And I am kind of assuming how someone is going to interact with this. And like I might place a hint somewhere, and I am assuming or guessing the conclusion that the player is going to get out of it. And that's one of those where like I really need to test this stuff, because I have been proven wrong many times before, where I think like, yeah, obviously when a player finds this clue, they're gonna get that like aha moment and everything's gonna fall into place. And many times that's not been the case, because I have, either I've underestimated or overestimated how naturally or how intuitive something is going to be in my game. And I would say so about the story as well. Speaking maybe about playtesters who go above and beyond, I also have a story and narrative in my game, which is fairly... I basically call it a fragmented narrative, where I do say some stuff, or like tell some stuff very explicitly to the player about what is going on in the narrative. But basically half of it is just completely hidden in environmental details and small little hints here and there, and is never actually explicitly said anywhere in the game. And that's one of those things as well, which is it's impossible for me to actually know what type of conclusion a player might come to, what they think might have occurred or happened, and so on. But I actually had one playtester, Cheater, shout out, who ended up, after playing through the game, he wrote an entire 4-page document on his interpretation of the story in my game.
Wow.
And that's one of those things where, like, as the developer, it's impossible for me to like overstate how incredibly valuable that was to get, because that's one of the few times where I've gotten a very clear idea of what is going on in the person's head. Because usually I just get the story was very interesting, but I actually don't know what they picked up on or not, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but that gets me to my next question. So when you work on a new puzzle, or maybe just in general, when you work on a new game, who do you first send your build to? Like, who is your first playtester? And do you need to be aware of how many times you can use them, as we said earlier?
Yeah, I think so in some regard. I still reuse playtesters, right? But that's usually when, like, the way I've structured it right now is that every now and then I take on a new playtester who's never seen the full game before and gets to play through the entire thing, and I see how they interact with it. And then later on, I might add another puzzle or two, and then I let all former playtesters also try that. Because even though they might have seen most of the game already, like, I'm probably not going to get a bunch of feedback on the first puzzle, which they have done 4 times, but I can still, get feedback on those 2 puzzles that they haven't done before. Obviously, this requires a little bit more dedication on the playtester side in some regard.
Yeah.
But I still get some extra use from it that way. In terms of, other than that, like, who gets to test, I don't know if we're thinking as well as just like who the person is. Like for me, I don't know how it's been for you. Like I've definitely gotten a bit of a benefit from being a content creator as well. So I would say that as of right now, vast majority of my playtesters I have kind of recruited from my stream and so on. I don't know. What would you say in that regard?
So, in my case, let's take Phase in Despair, for example. The earliest prototype, I worked on it for maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and then I gave it to my wife to play. And as Vakacha said, that is a pretty big bonus to having a partner, I would say, because you can just give them the game and be like, can you play this for me and can I test it? And that was really, really helpful, because I remember we were sitting in a hotel room and she played the first prototype of that for like 3 or 4 hours. And that was a really good indicator. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I made like a dozen so pages of notes in that first playtest alone. And I think the next step was already a public build. Let me think about that, because I'm a huge fan of building in public. And one of the earliest prototypes, I don't think I sent it to a lot of other people after that. I think what happened was, I think I might have released it on itch already, but I remember sitting down with 2 game devs and I showed them the prototype as well. And they also confirmed that there is something there, which is, I think, also a huge benefit. Like if you can find other game devs, you can also give them like an early build of your prototype and let them say what they think, because you might not get the same feedback of a regular player, because they have, of course, this game design background and whatever, and they have their own tastes of what they think a game should have. But even like, I still remember the first time I showed this very early prototype of Fitness Bear to 2 of my game dev friends, because I think it did have a huge impact, because not only gave it some feedback that I could incorporate, but it also gave me confidence. And then, especially in the beginning, very, very important. But after that, again, I think I just published it on itch.io and I made a web chair build, which is, especially for a game like this, I think very important. So people can just play it very easily without installing anything. And I remember getting the first feedback on itch.io, and then basically, just went from there.
I must admit that I am a little bit jealous in that way.
Oh, why?
Because I kind of wish I could do more public playtesting as well, but I think it's a lot harder for me, because once again, my game is kind of linear. And like, if I let everyone try my game from start to finish, you always get the, at the end, you always get that thought of like, why would they now actually play the game when it comes out? Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's not a inherently replayable game. And now that's of course not to say that I wouldn't do any playtesting. I think that it's still very much critical, and I do try to do quite a lot of it. But in terms of like doing a completely public playtest in that way, I think is harder for a game like mine.
That's true. But I did have some linear games as well in the past, and for those I was very secretive. So I can definitely see where you're coming from. Let's take, for example, the third Half-Life mod that I made. It was called Half Quick Sunrise, and I had to really think about who I'm going to send it to, because, as you said, I had the same problem. Like they play it one time, and then the second time they know everything already, because it was also kind of a puzzle first-person game. But I really I had a list of potential beta testers, and I had them in the order of where I think they could potentially have the best feedback for me in this moment of time, which is I don't know. It had like close friends that I would send them to, and then I had some other game devs that I would send it to, but I always had to space it out because I would send it to one person. There was even something that we are going to talk about later, but for one friend, I waited until I had, I think, like 60% of the game done. And then I met him in person, and we had an in-person feedback round. So I would just sit behind him and just watch him like a madman and not say anything the entire time. We would actually almost sit in the dark because he was like, I'm going to turn off the lights to really enjoy this. And so we were like two people sitting in the dark. And I made notes behind him and like, okay, very interesting. And sometimes he would be like, how does this work? And I would be like, not saying anything. But that is also a really important step in the whole development. But yeah, that is, I can definitely see where you're coming from in terms of you have to space them out and then work on another update again, get another one, and then hope that by the end of it, it is ready for the masses or for the public.
It's kind of funny for me as well, since although I haven't done any like public playtests and so on, I have technically developed the majority of my game live in front of people. But that's also one of those things where a lot of people probably know that I am incredibly strict about what I do on stream and what I show and so on, where, I never work on any like late game story. I never work on anything story related whatsoever. I almost never show any type of puzzle solutions. So there's very like specific things I allow myself to work on in public because, as you said, you kind of, for a game like this, you want to remain a little bit secretive.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it encourages people to be curious about the game, which I think is a very important part of it.
Yeah, hats off to you. I don't know how you're doing that, but
problematically.
Problematically, yeah.
No, I literally have a script called Spoiler Manager, which disables like half the stuff in my game when I'm streaming.
Right. But wait a minute. There was a clip of you where the monster still appeared for you. Was that part of the when you had the spoilers turned on by accident, or was that?
That was right before I added the Spoiler Manager, so to call it.
Yeah.
Before then, I did have a couple of accidental jump scares and so on. But now that's the same thing where like all jump scares are automatically disabled. Anything that like random that could happen is disabled. And I made sure that I basically couldn't even by accident spoil stuff like that. But going back to something you mentioned, is you mentioned having your friends playtest as well as your partner, which I think is a good point as well. Now that I think of it, I think my partner is probably like the first wave of testing for most puzzles I make. Second one would probably be my sound designer, who is the only other person on my team. And then when they have both seen it, that's usually when I ship it out to my actual like playtesters and maybe get a new one to test it as well. But anyway, that's a small side point. What I was wanting to ask you is, what do you think is the difference with having like a stranger playtest your game compared to maybe in your case your wife or a friend, and maybe also compared to having another developer test it?
Yeah, the difference is, so it depends. It depends if so if the stranger is sitting in front of you, for example, you're at a convention and you're having a booth with your game. I had Faith in Despair at a convention like that, and I had people playing the game next to me or in front of me. And it depends. If people know that you're there, they might not be as honest. Whereas if people don't know that the developer is there, they will sometimes have a bit more honest reactions. It really depends, because let me think about this. Because if you let people test it on itch.io or on Newgrounds, I think you get, there is even a Reddit where you can submit a game. I think it's called Play My Game, straight up. Sometimes you will get people that are very honest, and sometimes I think this gets into a next point of what to do with that feedback, because sometimes you get very honest responses that, to a point where it's like, well, do you like this genre of games even? So to a point where it's like, why did you even play this? I don't know. The difference is, it is very hard to say, because you need all three types of feedback, I should say.
I think they're all valuable, but I've definitely noticed some differences. As you said, I think and it depends. It doesn't even always have to matter whether it's a stranger or someone you know, because it's also just depending on personalities, like how people are as a person, right? Some people might be a little bit more careful with how they give feedback on something, and they might want to sugarcoat stuff and so on. And that can, like, sometimes people just want to be nice. And maybe I can find that maybe more common sometimes, as for someone like me, where I'm recruiting a lot of playtesters from my stream. Like, this is also people that, I sit and talk to for hours and stuff. Like, I think it's not that out of the world that some of them might just want to be a bit nice and be like, no, yeah, it is good. When sometimes you have to kind of read between the lines and trying to figure out, like, but do they actually mean it's good, or are they just
that's
saying
tough.
This?
That is really tough.
But that goes, of course, the other way as well, where if someone is brutally honest, maybe sometimes even to the point of being a little bit rude, it's the same thing. Like, you do kind of want to read into it a little bit more to figure out, like, what the truth in the message is, right? And I think here it depends a little bit, where sometimes I do think that there might be a correlation where strangers can be a little bit more brutally honest, because it feels less personal, especially when everything that is personal is taken away. As you said, if it's just like a random person on the internet, I think they are the most likely to be, like, brutally honest. Whereas if it's someone that's literally sitting next to you, I think it's more likely that people start being a little bit, maybe want to sugarcoat some stuff because they just don't want to be rude. And it's like, of course, it comes from a nice place, but sometimes it can be unfortunate too, because it's like, as the developer, I still want to know the truth. I want to know whether they enjoy something, whether they struggle with something.
I gotta say, the most honest feedback I got, I mean, apart from my wife, who is very honest, thanks to her, the most honest feedback that I got was from game devs that are very successful, because they don't care if I at the end of this playtest session like them or not, I guess. So they will just hammer at your game, and they will just shoot it down and be like, that is missing, this is not working, what are you doing? And that can be very daunting and scary. But this, for Fate and Despair, it was, I had a session like this once, where I was sitting in a fake publishing pitch meeting, where there was a publisher in there, and it was basically a bunch of people having a fake pitches, and that was a very honest feedback round. I think that I think that turned the game around really, really quickly.
Actually, I do think that game developers, maybe in general, do tend to be quite good playtesters, because it is one of those things where they quite inherently know what goes into making a game, and very naturally have put a lot of thought into their own games. Of course, it's a generalization, right? But I definitely think I've gotten a lot of, like, very good feedback from developers, because it's also that thing where, like, even you playtested my game, right? And there's certain things that I think that you would give feedback on that a normal player would never think of. Potentially as a direct result of you also being a game developer.
Right.
So an example of this is in my game, you can find items around in the rooms and you can pick them up, right? And I remember when you did your playtest, you mentioned that you wanted more of a particle effect or something when you picked up the item, like you wanted something more to happen. And that's one of those feedbacks that you might get that makes me wonder, like, if a normal player would actually, it's possible that maybe they would notice on some subconscious level that there's something missing, that it didn't feel like rewarding enough to pick something up. But I think it's a lot easier for someone who has worked on a game, which is like, even then, as with this example, just the fact that you know what a particle effect is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it does make a difference, right?
It does, yeah. Also, what Relief said, sometimes it's also survivorship bias, where people had a lot of success with their games, and so they really think that their opinion matters a lot. That can be interesting, because they will say it with a lot of confidence, like, ChatGPT. So it is going to be even harder to get through the truth of this feedback.
Yeah, I think that it goes to show that, like, at the end of the day, you still always have to, you kind of have to take everything with a grain of salt and actually put some thought into it. I wonder if we should quickly go over that before we get too far into this, because you mentioned in-person testing, which I think is very unique compared to, for example, when I just have someone play my game and later give me feedback on it. What would you say is the main differences with in-person testing?
I think the main difference is that you see how people sit with your game, and see how you see the entire state of the body. Like, are they stressed? Are they comfortable? Are they uncomfortable? Sometimes they just laugh, or they throw their hands on their heads, and these are like all of these mini reactions you would never get in a feedback form. And you can then always say, oh yeah, this part is working and this part is not working. What I also find interesting is sometimes in-person testings, I usually want to try figuring out if the game works by itself. And that is usually something where, when you are at an event, when you are at an event with a booth of your game, and the players sitting there, how often are they turning around to find the developer? That's basically the one way to figure out if a game is working or not. If they're not turning around, then it's fine. If they are turning around, maybe there's something, a very specific question, or maybe they are actually stuck. Like, one time, there was somebody turning around to find me, and he was like, how do I start? And I'm like, the start button is down below. But it's, every feedback is a data point, and you just, it is so interesting, because I feel like in-game, in-person testing, and also kind of recordings with the camera, they're kind of similar. But I feel like in person, just it has a certain energy that really tells you how the game is coming along. It is very hard to say for me. I don't know. But what do you have experience in terms of what kind of experience do you have in terms of that?
With in-person playtesting, I don't really have the experience of, like, I've never been at like an event showcasing my game and had people play it that way. So most of my actual in-person testing, that has been like, friends and family playing the game. But I do think that, like, I do agree with you in the sense that there's a lot of these small details that you pick up when you are like actively watching someone play your game. as you said, that you would never see this in a feedback form, because when a person happened to chuckle or sigh at a specific moment, it's very unlikely that that's something they would maybe write in a feedback form, but it's something that you as the developer can pick up. And I think there is some similarity, as you said, with like recorded playtests. I do try to incentivize most of my playtesters to also record preferably both voice and video, because there is, I don't know, there's just so many of these small things that you pick up on that you otherwise would miss out on. So like at this point, I don't know, I probably watched hundreds of hours of playtesting in my game, where like even when people send me these like 2-hour playtests and joke that like, you're not gonna sit and watch through this thing, like, I am. I will literally sit there and I'm not skipping a second. I'm going through the entire thing to see if I can catch any little detail which I might not be aware of otherwise, because those can be sometimes even more valuable than the things that people think of saying.
Absolutely. I think this is a gold mine, actually. Like, give me a 2-hour video of my game. I'm like, I'm eating today. This is my special event. I want to point out that this is exactly why when you have a streamer play your game, it's just the ultimate playtest, because streamers by default will say anything that pops into their head. It's just, and I had one person, he's a YouTuber specialized in roguelike deck builders. I had him play my game, and it was so valuable, but especially at the end where he just had like a 1-hour feedback round. And it was so interesting because I feel like this was not intended for me to be seen, because it was like his editor should take the live stream and then make a YouTube video out of it. But I caught the end of the live stream that was not really meant to be seen by me. And dude, he was so honest. He was so honest in certain parts of the game that really helped the game, like make it a better game in the end. So yeah, this is.
I think you're right with that. Like, streamers or YouTubers, I think, tend to be very good at thinking out loud, because they want to constantly be narrating stuff. They want the chat or the viewer to stay engaged, right? Which means that they often end up basically thinking out loud. And as the developer looking at someone playing your game, that is incredibly valuable. And it's one of those things where, especially now when I'm doing more like, playtesting in the later stages of my game, where people are like playing through the entire full game and so on. Sometimes when I get a new playtester, they will ask me like what type of feedback I want. And that's one of the main things nowadays that I will say to someone before they go into the playtest, which is just try to think out loud. Like, tell me what you're thinking when you're solving a puzzle. Like, because I want to know what people are, what do they expect the solution to be? Like, when they're presented with a puzzle, immediately I want to know what is the first thought of what they think they have to do. And when they get a clue, like, if they don't say anything, there's no way for me to know whether they correctly picked up on the clue, right? So and I think that is, as you said, it's something that especially streamers, I think, do very subconsciously.
Yeah, absolutely. But do you have, you said you had in-person testing with your family, right?
Yeah, mainly friends and family, as well as my sound designer for the game. He is almost always one of the first testers whenever I've done something new.
Okay. But would you say then they are nice to you, or probably not, right? They're also trying to give you feedback because they like you.
It's funny because I feel like reading online, I've heard a lot of people say that like friends and family can be bad playtesters because they're not going to be honest. In my experience, I think that most of the people around me are actually surprisingly good playtesters.
Yeah.
Like my partner, for example, has no issue completely roasting something I've made, which is incredibly valuable for me as a developer, because I much rather have that than someone trying to sugarcoat it or maybe not even say anything at all. So I don't know. I've actually found that people tend to be, at least the people around me tend to be quite honest.
Yeah, I would say so too.
But it is tricky with, I think especially in-person playtesting has some more caveats to it. So like you mentioned previously, the whole thing about like not trying to nudge them and so on, I think it is something that can sometimes be a little bit difficult, because I don't know if you relate to that, but as a game developer, seeing someone be stuck in my game or like not understand something, it like physically makes me cringe. Like I feel so bad because it's like, you know, it's so difficult for me to separate that. Like I feel like, okay, I have failed here. Like I have not explained something correctly, and it actually pains me watching it. But when it comes to in-person playtests and even playtests in general, because sometimes even online, I might have someone who sends me a message being like, hey, I'm currently testing and I'm stuck on this part. And I really do my best to try and nudge them as little as I can, preferably not at all. Like when I do, my catchphrase has basically become with in-person testing. When my sound designer turns around and be like, what is going on here? Like, what am I supposed to do now? I always just go, I don't know. I haven't played this. And I'm just sitting there not giving him anything, because it's the thing where it might seem brutal at face value, but it's really important for me to see, because I want, even if they are stuck, I still want to know, how stuck are you? Like, do you feel stuck enough to maybe still push on and eventually figure it out? Or is this like the point where you would quit the game, or where you would look up a walkthrough? And like, you know, I'm trying to test the boundaries. And even in the cases where I feel forced about kind of giving some hints, like there have been playtests where someone has sent me a message and basically said that I'm stuck on this part in the game, and they, you know, made it pretty clear that this is the point where I would quit. Like I just want a solution now. And even then, I try to be very deliberate and ask them questions first. Before even thinking about giving them a solution, I will ask them questions so I understand not only where they're stuck, because there might be different factors to it, right? I want to know, what items have you picked up? What clues have you found? So that I first can know whether they have all the knowledge they need to be able to solve it. If they have that, then I know that, okay, something, they have not hit the aha moment. There's still something missing. Then I'll try to, you know, prompt them with questions to figure out what they think the solution would be, and so on. And then when I realize, okay, they are like properly stuck, even at that point, I will start by nudging them in the least like effective way I possibly could, to see how much do I need to nudge them before it clips. And this has, like, I don't know, it might sound over the top, but it's been incredibly valuable, because like I've added, as I said, more hints here and there because of playtesting, and those hints are often directly based on these conversations I have with playtesters, where I found out, like, what is that one little piece of information that was enough for him to get that aha moment? Okay, then when I know that, I might add that as a like optional hint for people who do get a bit more stuck.
Yeah, no, it's the same for Fate and Despair. The entire first few minutes are based on all of these in-person events where I would just look over the shoulders and be like, wait a minute, they're missing like a tiny clue. You know, just one little tooltip. And for example, what is really, really important is that having, when you move your mouse over an item on the screen, on the HUD, that it shows a little tooltip. And every time I see people doing that, I'm like, yeah, you were ready to learn this right now. That is really, really good. But then they do not go into the inventory. So I made a note of give them like a little nudge after the second fight that they can go to the inventory. And all of these little tips, they pile up to really make the onboarding much, much better. And even to a point where it's like, wait a minute, this is, I could give them a hint, but let me think about that. Does this even matter? Should this even be in the game at this point? Maybe the onboarding should be simplified. So I have, for example, the entire first map is handmade. So I can really dictate what the first experience is going to be, which is also based on all of these in-person tests. Very, very important.
Yeah. No, I think they definitely can be some of the most valuable testing you can do.
Absolutely. But what do you do with all of these, all of this feedback, Joppy? What do you do with the negative feedback where people tell you to screw this game? Or what do you do with feedback that says this is the best game ever? How do you take the feedback?
I think I try to roughly do it the same way, no matter what the feedback is, which is always to, like, you know, not just take it as face value, kind of take a step back and, you know, try to kind of distance myself and think about it in a very objective manner. Now, that's a lot simpler. You know, it's easier said than done, right? Because especially with like a very harsh, like negative feedback, as someone who's like, you know, pouring your soul into a project, hearing someone, you know, have very bad things to say about it is tough, right? But I think at the end of the day, no matter how no matter what the expression is they use, there usually is something of value in there, right? Like, even if someone is, you know, maybe even being a bit hyperbolic and saying that this game is horrible because I'm completely stuck or whatever it might be, like, there still is like a root issue to it, which most of the time, if you try to dig deep enough, you might actually be able to realize what the actual issue is. And like, I think that goes with positive feedback as well. Now, sometimes it's nice to just have positive feedback to, you know, feel a bit good as well. But sometimes you do need to take that with a grain of salt as well. Like I said, sometimes people just want to be kind, and you need to see if, like, are they trying to sugarcoat something here? Like, I don't know. Basically trying to read into it like a little bit extra is usually my strategy.
Yeah, I would agree. So in terms of negative feedback and positive feedback, I guess, but negative especially, having a bit of a distance is really good. The way I do it is you read it, and then you can take a step back, and then you can say, that is very interesting. What is this emotion? What is this person feeling? And where is this coming from? There's a book that you can read. It's called Nonviolent Communication, which in terms of feedback, it talks about a person's needs. So a negative feedback comes from the fact that the person's needs probably weren't fulfilled. Or maybe it's just certain expectations. And something else that I like to tell myself is, when the feedback is personal, you know, when they attack you personally, it's usually, I like to tell myself that it's just very sad because they have probably grown up in an environment where this kind of feedback is the norm. So this person also probably is getting this sort of feedback all the time. Maybe in the work environment, maybe from the family, maybe how they grew up, right? So it sounds very sad, but this is also the sort of filter that you can put in front of the negative ones, where they really like personally attack you. Where it's like, yeah, but maybe, you know, this person is just repeating what the words that they themselves have received over the years. Maybe it's also, you know, sometimes even envious people, where they would like to make a game as well, but they just cannot find a way to do it because, you know, of the situation. So all of these circumstances can lead to almost like an impulse negative feedback. Like some of the reviews that I've gotten, some of the negative ones from my game Half Creek Trilogy, they are very, you know, impulsive. They were like, oh my god, this game is so stupid and whatever. It's very, you know, because it's a rage game, of course. But I'm pretty sure if you ask the person again on the next day, once this anger has, subsided, then it would look a little bit different. So you always can look at it through that sort of lens. But yeah, positive feedback. I don't know. I'm very. I'm not good at taking positive feedback. I don't know.
I think you do have a point. Like sometimes people are just reactive. It's like it's an emotional reaction. Maybe to the point where you could even say that even though they are practically maybe even attacking you as the developer, it might just, to give them a little bit of a benefit of a doubt or whatever, it might just be the only way that they can give feedback. Which is, as you said, it's kind of sad, but that might just be the case. This might just be how they know how to communicate. So it basically is to say that, like, you shouldn't always take everything like that to heart. You should still stop and maybe think about whether or not they have a point. Like maybe there is something that should still be fixed. Like I still think it's important not to just brush it off and pretend like it was never said in the first place, because there can be something of value there. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, so I have one example is that some testers, I don't want to name them, but they always laugh when they find a bug. Like it's so hilarious that the guy who made other games, is now making bugs. Like I'm not purposefully adding bugs. I'm sorry, I'm just a human, But some people, they find it so hilarious, and I always have to remind myself, these people are probably laughed at as well. They just do whatever other people do to them. So it is at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, you're right. It is kind of funny that I added bugs. But yeah, which by the way leads me to another thing. Sometimes negative feedback is hard to grasp if you have a huge ego. So it is almost like, because you said you still have to ask yourself, is there a valid point to this? So when you read a negative feedback, you will have a gut reaction at first, right? You will have this knee-jerk reaction of, well, that's not true, or something like that, right? But you have to sit with it a little bit and be like, wait a minute, I'm gonna, as you said, look at it objectively and go past your ego, go past this God complex that we have as game developers sometimes, and be like, wait a minute, you know what? I think you're right. There's an example here where, dude, I've seen one game developer. He received for his game a lot of the same feedback, and you know what he said to all of this? He said, well, this game is going to be like this because it needs to be like this. And then he said, and I'm going to die on this hill. I don't know. I wouldn't say the game flopped or something like that, but it could have turned out differently, I think. But it's always hard to say, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's right. Just in the same way as you said, how the person giving the feedback, the very emotional feedback, let's call it, if you would ask them the second day about it, they might phrase it in a very different manner, right? And I think that's the same as you were kind of saying for us developers, because it's not like I'm sitting here trying to pretend like I'm not gonna have some reaction myself when I read someone say something potentially bad about my game. Because of course, I do still have that instinct to want to be defensive and protect my game. But you're just wrong, But there's no at the in the end you gotta realize that what is the most important to me is that my game becomes the best game it could be. Absolutely. And for that, I think it's very important to learn how to take feedback properly, whether it is positive or negative. And I think the strategy is, as in the same way as for the other person, just literally take a moment before you feel like your world is breaking down on you. Just like take 15 minutes, cool it off, and then read it and try to see if there's something objective in there.
Yeah, there were some situations in the past where I got a really strong emotional feedback, and I would just reply in a very kind manner, and then they would apologize for the way they've written their original post. They were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I was like this angry." So this is actually, some people, they are not aware of it until they get like a bit of kindness back, and then you're like, "Oh my god." It kind of snaps them out of it a little bit.
Especially online, I think it is that thing where sometimes people kind of forget that there is a person on the other side.
Yeah.
Like for them, it feels like I am attacking this product, but there is still a person behind that product as well. Like someone has poured their time and like money into this, and I think it's easy for people to sometimes forget that.
Yeah.
I do have another question, which I think could be quite interesting, because we've talked about how to handle the feedback that you do get, and a lot about how to maybe try and find the objectively important things in there and so on. But what feedback would you actually like? Or is there feedback that you would completely brush off and just like, this is invalid feedback?
Wow, that is a good question. I would say is there a feedback that I would entirely brush off? I don't think so, because I think it is very hard to say. I think I have I really want to make games that people enjoy, if that makes sense. So anytime I get negative feedback, I will look at it, no matter if maybe I know the person and I don't like the person. I would still look at the feedback and be like, yeah, I guess. I was the gut reaction to this question was maybe my music, where I'm a little bit like, oh, you don't like the music? Other people like it, so I guess it's fine. I think this is kind of the case where I'm a bit more lenient. It doesn't really affect gameplay, and so you still have to look at data. So if there are other people saying they like the music, it can offset the people that don't like the music, because there will be a middle ground. Not everybody is going to have the same taste. In terms of making a roguelike deck builder, there are some things where I always have to look into, is this a general thing that the genre has? Is this like a general expectation? I really have to be aware of this, because I don't want to make too much of a clone of other roguelike deck builders, but there are some genre expectations that I cannot really just throw away. So I think, to your question, is there anything that I just ignore? I don't think so, apart from maybe really, how should I put it? Like maybe visual improvements that just end up being a matter of taste. I don't know, but what about you?
Yeah, no, I think you put it quite nicely. Maybe ignore isn't the right term. I think maybe it's more of a spectrum, more so in like how much you take it into account. Because I think at the end of the day, you should listen to everything.
Yeah.
But whether you should have an immediate reaction and change your game because of it, that's a different question, right? I think as you said, when it's something that is very much just a subjective taste, that could be one of those moments where you might not have to take it as much into account. I think another example, as you mentioned as well, is whether it's is this person the exception? Like that's quite important to figure out, because I've had this where maybe someone gets stuck on one of the harder puzzles in my game. And then a lot of the time when people give feedback, they also like to give solutions to feedback, which I think that's one of those things where a lot of the time you probably shouldn't listen to the solution, because most people don't know how the game works, how it's built and so on. You should just disregard the solution, figure out what the root issue is, and then see if there's another solution for it, right? Most of the time I find that to be the case. But still, with that being said, I've had people be like, okay, this puzzle has to change. This is like far too difficult. But then when I actually look at my playtesting data, it's like 80-90% of people still solved this puzzle.
Oh.
And those people found it to be one of the best puzzles in the game.
Oh, wow, really?
And at that point,
man,
it's
that
like,
is tough.
It's kind of hard, because like I would like to make it easier specifically for you, but that sometimes that is difficult, because now I might make it a lot easier for everyone else, which in turn could make it a lot less rewarding. And that the question becomes like, is it worth sacrificing the enjoyment of the many for the frustration of the few? And in most cases, I would say probably not. Now, sometimes, in the puzzle I'm actually thinking of, I did come up with a very, I would consider it a quite clever solution, where I've added certain clues or hints to the puzzle that you would never see unless you are struggling.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is, and I shouldn't take full credit, because that was actually one of those few moments where playtested did have a pretty good solution. Nice. It was actually someone else mentioned that I should do this. Let me just think about, can I explain this without like completely spoiling stuff? I think I can. So basically, you might be aware, there's a puzzle in my game where you have to figure out the code to a save. Mm-hmm. And that one does have a little bit of a red herring. Like you kind of do need to have a little bit of a aha moment to actually figure it out. And without like, saying too much about the solution, I realized that like the people who did solve this tended to have a very good reaction to it. I think you even started laughing when you had your aha moment on that one. Oh. Yeah, it's been a while, but still, I watch every playtest, so I know. But what I actually ended up doing in this one is that, as I said, that there is like a red herring for it. And what I do is that every time you enter the incorrect code to the save, the player will do a little bark and say something, which is like a smaller clue to what they need to do. But what I then did, which is I realized that a lot of people are actually still like really struggling with this puzzle. What I did is that like just the more times you enter the wrong code, the clue is going to get slightly more clear.
That's really cool.
So just I found that to be a really way to basically, for the people who will figure it out by themselves, they will be completely unaffected by this. But the people who are really struggling, they will get more help.
That's really cool, yeah. And that also says that, because I think I was one of the people who suggested kind of a hint system, but a hint system is always like this present thing in the back of your mind where it's like, do I have to use a hint now? I don't want to because I don't want to feel dumb. So I guess having it this way still makes it possible that you still have this aha moment. So
I think this way it still feels more like you solve it yourself, because you still get like a somewhat environmental clue or whatever you want to call it. Whereas when you click on the give me a hint button, at that point you've actually given up on trying to solve it yourself, and I feel like it tends to have more of a bad aftertaste in that way.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe the final question is, how do we even acquire feedback? Do you have analytics? Do you have a feedback form? Do you ask people to write you 4 pages of story? Analysis. How do you collect feedback?
The story analysis, that was actually completely on its own accord, to be fair. But no, I do. I think it depends a little bit on the playtest. Like with in-person playtests, I will, as you mentioned, I will take a lot of notes. I will try to note down whatever I might find interesting or react to. And I might pose different questions, either depending on if the person is stuck or after we've played, just to get a general overview of like what they think about the game and so on. Other than that, I do have a feedback form. I have one specifically for my full game playtests. I also put a feedback form publicly in my demo, so anyone who plays the demo can give feedback on it. And I think that's a quite good way to do it, because it does allow you to kind of nudge players into giving the feedback that you are actually looking for.
Mm-hmm.
With like, just by choosing the very questions you have on the form.
So what is what do you think is the most valuable question on your feedback forms that you have gotten the most out of? Do you have like a fake Steam review? Do you have like a price suggestion, or what is, do you think, the most important one?
That's a good question. I think like they are all kind of important to some degree. I think maybe damn, that's really difficult. Like the way I tend to structure this is that I do usually have a couple of quick like overview rankings or ratings where people just get to, basically say, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much did you overall enjoy the game? How scary did you find it? How difficult did you find the puzzles? This is, maybe not the most critical, because it's, I'm not getting very specific feedback on it, but it's kind of nice to have that general overview, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But then other questions that I think are quite important is, I always tend to ask what the thing they liked the most is, and what the thing they liked the least was.
Oh yeah, that is good. Yeah,
that one I do tend to quite find quite useful, as well as I almost always have a question in there about what, like, after playing, what would you expect this game to cost when it comes out?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it is one of those things where you do kind of have to take the player's expectation a bit into mind there.
Yeah. So every time you see what was the least favorite thing, did you always fix that, or?
No, it definitely depends on exactly what the feedback is.
Okay.
As we were discussing earlier, there's a lot of factors to whether or not I'm gonna immediately go and like change the game because of it.
Mm-hmm.
More likely, if I notice that more people are, struggling or are annoyed with something.
Right.
What questions do you use a feedback form as well?
I did have a feedback form, but I think I never actually linked it. I think it was only available in the Discord. Now, so the way I collected feedback in Faith and Despair, I do have an in-game. It is an in-game feedback form, but only in terms of what you're currently experiencing. So you have so when you submit this form, you only you have two fields: the title and the description. Basically, if you encounter a bug or something. And it will send along a screenshot and also the entire save game, so I can immediately investigate.
That's clever.
Yeah, that is the biggest thing that helped me. Apart from maybe the auto submission of an error. So whenever Unity throws an exception, I automatically send an error to a Trello board that I have. That is so I'm not even depending on players submitting bugs. I can just catch them before they even, get reported by people. That is really, really helpful for me. But in terms of feedback, I do have the Discord. I don't know if every game should have a Discord. That is a bit of a tough one. But I guess for a system-based game that you can, in theory, play for a longer time, it makes a lot of sense where you have, your usual groups of suggestions, bugs, anything else that you can think of. But that is basically the main way that I collected feedback. Mostly through the feedback and, of course, the in-game feedback form. So whenever a bug occurred, I would remind people, hey, there's also an in-game feedback form. Please submit it so that I have to save game whenever something bad happens to you, or also whenever something good happens to you. That also, it happened also that people submitted some good stuff.
That sounds really clever, especially in such a, systems-based game or whatever, where a player might stumble upon a bug or something that is very specific to all of the factors in their very playthrough, right? And it might not be as easy for you to replicate. Yeah, so having access to that sounds like something really valuable.
That was really, really valuable, especially when you release a new version and then the next day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, my trailer is filled with errors. Oh, it's the one and same error. Okay, let's just fix it. And then you just push out a hot fix, and sometimes it's errors that people do not even actively witness. Sometimes there's an exception. Unity just, tucks it under the carpet and it's fine. It can also happen, but it can cause, follow-up bugs. So I want to know all about it, all about the errors that happen. But yeah, have we reached the end here? Do we want to take a look at what chat is saying really quickly? I usually hate big hint systems inside the game. Yeah, that is why I think.
I definitely relate to that. I was playing a game a while back for research, and they had a hint button in the game, which was a, in-game button in the top of the corner that was constantly visible. And that was, it's so tough, because even as the very stubborn player that I am, I tend to be a very patient and stubborn player when I play games. Like, I want to solve stuff without any help. But when you constantly have that hint button looking at you, it's difficult. Like, you feel, as soon as you get a bit stuck, you feel so much more drawn to clicking on it. So yeah, personally, I'm not a huge fan of those type of systems.
Exactly. We have a feedback form with 10 questions where you can get in-game currency as a reward. Otherwise, it's important to keep it short, I guess. Maybe one question at a time when you have completed something in game. Yeah, that's really interesting. Getting an in-game reward for feedback.
Yeah, definitely incentivizes it a bit more. Because I think it's if it's like normal players, it's harder to incentivize them to leave feedback. Like, most of my actual private playtesters, they do give feedback, but that's also, I tend to ask them, please give feedback.
Yeah, right.
But if I would take a look at my demo builds, it's like, if I would compare the amount of players I've had to the amount of feedback I've gotten, it's a very small minority that chooses to take the time and actually explicitly give feedback.
Yeah, we are really fortunate to even have those, I should say.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody who has sent in feedback.
Absolutely. But I think Relips has a good point there, where in that case, I think short and sweet is kind of the way to do it. Like, in my public feedback form in the demo, I only have a handful of questions. Most of them are just like ratings, and none of them are mandatory. Because at the end of the day, if someone only wants to give me one piece of feedback, that's better than if I force them to leave all of it and then they choose to not leave any, right? So I go a lot more loose on that feedback form, whereas the one for my actual playtesters is a little bit more in-depth.
Yeah. Well, people hate the hint system, but the people who grew along with these new tutorials tell you WSD to move. They really don't know how to play the game without them. Some people hate it, but can live with it. Other people cannot play that game without them. That is interesting. Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. but yeah, I think this is the end of the episode. What do you think, Machapi?
Yeah, I think it sounds good. I think we covered quite a lot.
All right. So
yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Feature Complete,
where we talk about game dev and everything related to it. Okay, let's do it again. Let's do it again, Machapi. Let's do it again. I will just say we will be back, and you you take.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, good.
Take 2. Let's go. Cut. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Feature Complete, where we talk about game dev and everything related to it.
We will be back in 2 weeks, and until then, have a good time, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
See you. See you,
ya.
my chappy. See you, chat. Bye bye. All right. I will be back to my regular stream for a second here. Let's see. Hello. Test. Blackout. Hello, Coding Gree. Hello, Lips. We should also stop the... Yes. Bye, everybody. All right. How is everybody doing? How was the episode? Very good episode today? Cool. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Super excited to edit it. I keep both streams side by side, so now I have an extended version. Damn, that is the ultimate dedication. To be honest, I feel like I can end the stream today because my voice is kind of gone. Time to make dinner, yes. Coding Gree is also gone, so no reason to stay here, I guess. No, that's not true. But my voice is kind of broken, so I think I will take this as a sign to end it as well. We will just raid Matt Choppy over here, and then I will hopefully be back with a fully recovered voice on Wednesday. The only news that I have for you today, as I said in the beginning, is that I have gotten feedback from Apple, and they don't like the splash screen, so we will take a look at that on Wednesday. All right. And now we're going to raid Matt Choppy. Thank you very much for hanging out with me today during the podcast. This was very, very cool. Have a good one. Yes, have a great evening, everybody. See you on the other side, and see you on Wednesday. Goodbye.